Nice.
I mean, Birmingham properties cost 50K, right? On a 20% DSCR loan, that's 10K down right there. And all I do is, for example, like with a business credit card, you can liquidate it for say $600 for 10K. So I just pay $600 to liquidate 10K, then acquire the property. Then I do a BRRRR method on the property. So it's much easier to scale in a place like Birmingham than most places out there.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome again. Hey, I'm so excited today. Hey, thank you, John, for spending time with me today here chatting about business credit, right?
Business credit. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, awesome, John. Hey, John, when we talk about other people's money, a lot of my audience is based on real estate investing, heavy real estate investing. Some are business entrepreneurs, like they have run different types of businesses. And if you guys are in need of access to additional capital, a lot of times we focus on our friends or relatives or, people we know and trust, right, that we can raise capital from. But a lot of us sometimes forget the power of business credit, right? John, tell us a little bit about, well, before we jump into that, I want John to share a little bit about himself. John, where do you reside? What is your background? What got you to where you're at right now? I know it's a loaded question, but give us a little bit insight.
Yeah, I'm in Vermont, so the second smallest state in the U.S. Here. We got good beer, maple syrup. We got leaves. We got the mountains. Not much going on here. My background is mostly high ticket sales. I've sold for some big time coaches like Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, all that fun stuff. So I've known about credit stacking for the past 8 years or so. But the reason why I got into the credit space myself was I used to have bad credit, right? So just like most people out there, I had a 520 credit score. I had late payments collection with Amex. I actually paid 3 different credit repair companies to fix my credit, which is pretty wild. And then after that, I just fixed my credit myself. So that's how I got into credit stacking is, 4 years ago, I actually paid another company, NB Capital. His name is Eric Miles. Shout out to Eric. But he got me 110K. Then after that, I spent close to 50K in mentorships, kind of learning the game of business credit.
Wow. Yeah. It's, a lot of people also don't realize, right, that you do have to spend money in mentorship, right, in education. I know, for the past, a lot of people thought about, hey, I'm just going to go pay a college or university to learn, which you don't really, I don't think you learn. I mean, yeah, you learn a profession, but as far as the entrepreneur side, it's not a whole lot of knowledge there. So pretty cool that you were able to spend money on a mentorship and you gain all these skills on the business credit side.
Yeah, I'm super, super big into like mentorships and courses. I mean, I buy all kinds. You know how it is with the shiny object syndrome, right? So anything from fix and flip, Section 8 investing, Airbnb, marketing, AI stuff. So I actually went to college. I dropped out of college myself, studied digital marketing, and now, across my platforms, I'm getting millions of views. So it shows you don't really need to go to college, but it's always good to invest in yourself when it comes to mentorships and courses.
Dude, pretty awesome, man. So you say you're up in Vermont, man, but what's up with that LA hat?
I'm actually originally from Escondido, Chula Vista, Port Hueneme, Oxnard, California. I got family in LA still.
Oh,
I miss
that
it
is
out
cool,
there. It's
man.
expensive, I love the weather and all that stuff, but I do like Vermont. It's more low key. We got Boston 3 hours away, Hartford, Connecticut 3 hours away. So we have some good land here, so it's really fun out here.
Nice, man. That's so cool. Yeah, I just figured I share that.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm always rocking LA hats. People don't like it in Vermont because everyone's a Boston Red Sox fan. So
right. Oh man, that's fun. Hey John, so tell me a little bit, right? You said you mentioned fix and flip, right? So that you took a mentorship into fix and flip. So was that your first entry into like the real estate investing space? Is that how, or did you go through like the wholesaling route, or did you directly go into the capital side? What was your entry into the real estate investing space?
yeah, good question. So 4 years ago, I actually bought a Section 8 mentorship group. Section 8 is still pretty big, right? A lot of courses and mentorships, but that's how I got into it, just Section 8 investing. and I accidentally fell into fix and flips. I was burning most of my properties, and sometimes, it makes more sense to flip the property versus just burr it. So I kind of pivoted mostly towards flips. But all I really do is I leverage the business credit to acquire the properties, plus rehab the properties as well at 0%. So I pretty much paid $0 on all my properties. But yeah, I paid for another course in mentorship with Section 8. I found a team boots on the ground in Alabama and Florida. So I'm mostly out of state investor right now.
Wow, man, that's a pretty brave move right there, brother. Doing investing out of state. Was that does that something you picked up from like the Section 8 mentorship where they kind of coached you along the way, or how did that come about? A lot of investors are like, I'm going to stick on this state. I'm going to become an expert in my state, but that's not the route you choose. So I'm interested to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Vermont is not as pricey as like a place like California, but the average price point here is 500K. And places like Birmingham, Memphis, Tennessee, Ohio, much cheaper entry. So in the group that I was in, there's communities within the group. For example, they have like Memphis, Tennessee, Cleveland, Ohio, Birmingham, Alabama. I found a community within the group and essentially found a team boots in the ground, property management, real estate agents, wholesalers, contractors, which is super important, right? You want to make sure you have good contractors. But yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's been good for the most part, minus high crime areas always have their cons, right? So you want to make sure you're watching
Yeah.
property and all that stuff. But overall, it's been really good.
Very awesome, man. Yeah, it's pretty cool how you jumped into that and you found that community that you had that support, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important when we get into these investment, like when you start getting into real estate investing, the importance of community, right? And it sounds like you found the right one. We met through a community called Gator, which is part of the Pace Morby community. But just finding that support group. So yeah, if y'all are new into real estate, definitely find that community to help you expand, right, and grow quicker and scale because you can't do it alone.
It's huge. I mean, your network is your net worth, right? The more people you talk to, the more money you're gonna make. It's inevitable, is what I say. So
Yeah, awesome, awesome, John. So tell us a little bit. How many properties do you currently have, or do you that you or do you part? Are you have them like in a partnership type of group, or you own them outright? Or I know you said DSCR loans, but are you the primary owner?
yeah, I'm a primary owner. I mostly do DSCR loans. I have 13 properties, mostly in Birmingham, Alabama, but I pivoted mostly towards flips nowadays because my main game plan is to take the profits from the flips and actually invest in Vermont here and grab some multis. But yeah, 13 properties right now. And it's pretty,
Nice,
I mean, Birmingham properties cost 50K, right? On a 20% DSCR loan, that's 10K down right there. And all I do is, for example, like with a business credit card, you can liquidate it for say 600 bucks for 10K. So I just pay $600 to liquidate 10K, and then acquire the property. Then I do a burn method on the property. So it's much easier to scale in a place like Birmingham than most places out there.
awesome, awesome. Well, I know you did touch just the magic sauce that we're going to be diving into here, which is how to leverage business credit, right? And you just shared one of those ways. But, for those new into business that are getting into real estate and want to leverage business credit, what are some tips that you want to share with them, right? A lot of people say, well, I have to have like excellent 800 plus credit score. There's a lot of misconceptions around business credit. So if you were to give us, 3 or 5, whatever that is, right? That you say, hey, if you're a newbie, these are the things I would recommend to get your business credit in line. What would those be?
Cool. Yeah. So with business credit, a lot of people kind of mix up corporate credit and business credit, especially in some groups, right? So essentially, corporate credit, what that means is you build up a business credit score, you get net 30s, net 60s trade lines, and eventually you get a good business credit score with, Experian Business, Dun& Bradstreet, things like that. And that's great for things like charge cards or small business lines of credit. So what we do is we focus on something called 0% business credit. And what that requires is a personal guarantee. So with this method, you can actually get 100K to 200K in 0% without documents, W-2s, or tax returns. You can actually be a brand new business, make $0, and still get 50K, 100K, 200K plus. But to answer your question, and what we do is we optimize your personal profile. So it's really a 5-step process. First process is optimizing the personal profile. Second step is making sure the LLC is structured correctly. Third is connecting them with the banking manager is what we call them. Fourth is using the right data points, and the fifth is applying the right sequence. But essentially, if you do
Mm,
all that stuff in order in the correct way, we can get 100K, 200K in funding.
wow. So those 5 steps are so super essential, right? To make sure that you get that right funding.
Super essential, yeah. And just like you mentioned earlier, I mean, the score is the most important thing, right? When it comes to business credit, the biggest things that we take a look at are a 700 plus score, no late payments within 2 years, no collections, good revolving credit. So what that means is good personal credit limits. So for example, if you have personal cards, at least a 5K, 10K limits. Because for example, if you have a $500 limit, the bank's not going to grant you big business credit limits, if that makes sense. Um,
mm,
so essentially, good credit profile. And a lot of people have a big misconception. They think if they have an 800 plus score, but with no credit cards, they can still get funding. But it's all based off revolving credit and just good credit history.
mm. Okay, that is important right there, right? Because there are some people like I was in a state where I debt free, didn't use any credit cards,
Yeah.
so that would impact, right? If I was gonna go out and request, a line of credit.
It does, and it happens all the time, right? A lot of people like to use cash, which makes total sense when it comes to the banks. But the banks look at your overall credit profile. So things like total accounts, active accounts, utilization, age of credit is a big one, right? But yeah, comparable credit, revolving credit's the biggest things that banks look at.
Mm. And I wanted to go back because you did touch something important, right? The misconception between corporate credit and just like the regular business credit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that is a huge difference, right? I know, like in the community we're part of, they pushed a lot of that corporate credit, right? Hey, go get your Dunsbat Street, go open up some Net 30 accounts, right? Build up that. Can you just re-emphasize that again for the people that are listening, right? Do you really need to go that route as uh, an investor in real estate investing? Do you eventually you want to get to that, right? But if you're getting your foot in the door and need business credit, do you really need to go through those steps early, or what are your suggestions on that?
Yeah, you don't need a business credit score to get 100K to 200K and 0% business credit. So corporate credit is really good. I highly recommend building it out. Build up the business credit score with Duns and Bradstreet, Experian Business. But ultimately, it's really good for things like Home Depot credit cards. Like for example, I went to Home Depot the other day. I grabbed a 15K Home Depot credit card, EIN only, which means no personal guarantee, which is pretty cool, right? And you can get things like charge cards. So, for example, Bill.com, Revenue, Divvy. What that means is essentially you hook up your bank statements and they give you a charge card based off your revenue. But even if you have a good business credit score or corporate credit, you still need revenue. So, for example, on a business line of credit, the banks usually grant you anywhere from 10% to 20% of the revenue. So, for example, if you do 500K a year, you're still only going to get a 50K business line of credit. So that's
Mm,
kind of why we focus on the 0% business credit. And as you get these business credit cards, use them, pay them off on time. You build up your corporate credit anyways because we report to the business bureaus. So we're kind of, doing both at once in that method.
nice. The other question that, talking about business credit that comes up a lot is, hey, what happens after my promotional rate expires, right? Hey, great,
Mm,
I have 0% interest for a year. It expires. Now I have like $50,000 with a 20% APR on it or whatever that is, right?
yeah.
What is some advice you give to investors when they ask that type of question?
Yeah, so there's two different options. With the method that I use, so over the last 3.5 years, I've built close to $1 million in credit. I have 200K in personal credit and 750K in business credit. These are most of my cards right here. A big stack of cards, not counting the ones in my wallet right now. But there's two different ways you can go about this. So every 6 to 12 months, you can actually apply for a new round of funding and get another 100K, 200K at 0%. So worst case scenario is like, let's say you have a card that runs out. Maybe you're doing a flip. It goes a high interest. All you do is a balance transfer to the 0%. So you just get a new round of funding, right? Grab another 100K to 200K at 0%. Or the second thing is after the 0% runs out, the interest rate might turn to say 15%, 17.49%, 28%. But for example, like most of my cards are 17.49%. So I don't want to confuse people, but essentially, like let's say your card is at 50K balance at 17.49%. That's an annualized rate. So on a monthly basis, you're only paying $700 a month. But for example, like on a PML loan at 15% for 6 months, how much would you pay? Like typically 6K, right?
Yep.
Right. So $700 times 6 months is $4,200. It's actually cheaper than a PML loan or hard money loans, especially since you're getting cash back a mile. So essentially, with the second method, I essentially became the bank because now I've close to $1 million in credit. I don't have to go to an underwriter. I don't have to submit my purchase price, my rehab price, my ARV. I could essentially lend out the business credit cards as hard money, which is pretty neat, or just get a new round of funding.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an amazing strategy where you're using, right? You're becoming yourself your bank, right? And
Right.
yeah, you are getting better terms than if you were to go to a private money lender that's lending in second position. Because yeah, that money's expensive for sure.
Yeah, it is, and I definitely still use PMLs and HMLs, of course. But the beauty of this is like I don't have to like go to underwriter again. I can do my own deals, and it's good in a pinch because, as we know, as real estate investors, like
Yeah.
pop up all the time, right? It's good to have unlimited capital. I call this concept the infinite funding concept. I'm pretty sure I'm the one that coined that. Never seen it before, but it's just like the infinite banking concept. You can essentially get funding every 6 to 12 months and just build up your own capital and become the bank, just like you said.
Dude, that is pretty awesome. So tell us a little bit from like some of your clients that have used, right, you as a source. Like, how quickly does somebody get funding? Is it like within a month, 2 months, 3 months? How quickly does somebody see that they get approved for the 100K?
Yeah, it really depends on if their profile is optimized. If everything looks good on their credit profile, typically it takes 3 to 5 weeks to do the business credit card stack. Because the business credit card stack is typically anywhere from 2 to 4 cards to get the 100K to 200K in credit. So what we do is we go to a bank, we apply for the card, wait for the approval, apply for the next card. So the whole process can take anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks, especially if we connect people with RMs, a relationship manager. They have their own schedules, right? So essentially, they have to get on their schedules, pick a time with them, and book the calls. But anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks, and then we also have different other loan options like unsecured loans, or we can get someone say a 50K loan at 7% for 6 years within 3 to 7 days. So really depends on what kind of loan type you're doing as well.
Oh, wow. So not just 0% interest credit cards, but there's also the possibility of just even a 7%
Right.
for
Yeah.
seven.
A super cool hack where you can do like a 4 to 6 year term, anywhere from like 7 to 9% interest rate, which is pretty good in this economy, right? Um,
Yeah.
there's no docs or no collateral, right? So they don't even require proof of income.
Wow. That's a pretty sweet hack because some people get in that situation where they do a fix and flip and they need money to refinance it because
Mhm.
they potentially did not underwrite it correctly, so now they need money to refinance out. And that would be a great hack because now they're getting themselves a loan for 7% or potentially 9%.
Yeah, it's super good.
Um,
Really love it. Another cool hack is like a lot of people, like back when I got into the real estate space, I was leveraging my personal credit cards, and we know how that is, right? If you use personal credit cards, what happens is utilization goes up, score goes down. So some people might have a 600 credit score with no late payments or collections. So what we do is we actually take that loan I talked about, we pay off the credit card debt. It's going to boost the score up. Then we apply for the 100K to 200K in credit. Then we pay off the loan. So essentially, what we're doing is we're taking care of the high interest debt. We're boosting their score. We're getting them 0% funding and taking care of everything at once. Because a lot of people think they can't get approved just because they have high utilization, but there's some cool hacks that we can do to kind of fix that.
Interesting. Yeah, because you mentioned high utilization. Does that take into effect like the inquiry amounts that you make during a certain period of time? Like I've heard, hey, you can't have 7 hard inquiries like in the last 2 years. Is that like the solid like golden rule when it comes to applying for business credit?
Yeah, so each bank is different. Like we work with 4,000 plus banks. Each bank has different data points and banking rules. So, for example, the 5 and 24 rule, the 2 and 30 rule is another one. Chase is a very sensitive bank. They don't like to see two inquiries within the last 6 months. But yeah, typically the less
Mm,
hard inquiries, the better. You can do something called an inquiry right. And what that means is after the business credit card approvals, you do something called an inquiry wipe again. And what that means is you dispute the inquiries and say they're inaccurate inquiries to get them removed. Some people like to do that, some people don't. But essentially, the way that you can erase the inquiries is because they're not tied to your personal report. So when you dispute the hard inquiries, they can't see them on the personal report. So they erase the inquiries entirely. And that's kind of how we do the infinite funding concepts. So like let's say you got 100K in funding, we erase the inquiries after. The banks can't even tell that you just got 100K in funding if you go back in 6 to 12 months.
wow. That is some pretty cool hacks, everybody. So if you're all checking this out, John's dropping some knowledge there about business credit and how to maximize that opportunity there. John, we talked a lot about, we talked about inquiries, which is super important, right? Because there is a misconception around that and how you can get around that. That's amazing. Other people, right? Since we are focused in real estate investing, there are other folks that might use it for like, if they're doing like a business startup. Could you use business credit for like a business startup, or what are your function like from your experience? What do you see like business credit being used for more? I know we're in the real estate space, but have you seen them used for like business startups, or is that different type of loan or buying
Yes.
equipment?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so business credit, I mean, it's been around for a while, right? Especially business credit card stacking, probably 5 years. The majority of people focus on regular businesses, landscaping, restaurants, startups, marketing companies, AI companies. My avatar is just real estate investor because I like working with real estate investors that can talk the talk, and I enjoy helping people get capital for that. But yeah, we help out every business owner out there. So for example, this is perfect for startups. The reason being again is the client needs no documents, W-2s or tax returns. As long as they have a 700 plus score, they can get 50K, 100K, 200K in funding, and they can use that for things like marketing, hiring, delegation, virtual assistants, whatever it may be to grow their business and get it off the ground. I mean, we all know the biggest reason why most businesses fail is due to lack of capital. So we solve this solution by helping them get 0% for 12 to 18 months to grow their company. But yeah, we help fund any business out there. The ones that we don't really like to work with are going to be high risk businesses like trucking, cannabis, alcohol, gambling, like things like that. Real estate is considered high risk as well, but there's ways to actually structure the LLC where it's not high risk with the NAICS code.
Nice. Well, that's definitely important there, right? Understanding how you structure your business. You mentioned real estate is part of that high risk, and I think a lot of people fall in that trap where, well, not trap, right? But just not knowing because they set up their NICS code a specific way, and then when they go apply, there's some other companies, right, that provide this type of service, but they don't help them. They don't give them the guidance of hey, is your LLC structured correctly, right?
Mhm.
Is your profile set up correctly? And a lot of those things are missed, and then they don't get approved for any amount of very small amount of business credit. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out there with the NIECS code. Super important.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, some banks are just straight up deny you for the NAICS code, which is pretty wild, but it makes sense, especially in today's economy, right? Just banks are getting a lot more stricter with lending rules, just because we're at an all-time high right now for like credit card debt and loans and all that stuff. So they're just getting way more strict.
Yeah. Yep. That's so true. And I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier, right? How business banks are currently like they're changing, right, of certain things, and it is affecting a little bit as far as the approval process. So ensuring that you have the correct business structure is going to, it's a higher probability, right, that you are going to get approved for
Mhm.
for a higher loan.
Yeah, so it really comes down to like the LLC structure, the name, the NAICS code. The age does play a factor in it, I would say. but it really comes down to the data points and the relationships too at the same time. So for example, like on these applications, if you don't use the right data points like projected revenue or stated income, it's going to make a big difference on your approvals. And yeah, there's some major changes happening right now in the banking space. Like for example, I bet a bunch of people next month or two are probably gonna get out of the funding space. The reason being is like, for example, Chase. Chase is the biggest bank out there. Chase RM is all over the internet, but they just got rid of Chase RMs like a few days ago for most people out there. So
Wow.
everyone was doing like 30K to 70K approval with Chase, and they kind of found out. And now Chase is only working with people that do six figures a month or have $1 million in their account for RM at least. And the reason why I mentioned that is you can still go apply online at Chase and maybe get like a 20K, 30K approval. But the whole 70K Chase thing is a lot harder to do now without a Chase RM.
Wow.
Yeah, and half these funding companies probably don't even know this is happening right now. We just work with a lot of people, as you probably saw with the links and all that stuff. My partners, I mean, we teach 120 other funding companies on how to do this. So what that means is like we constantly have the newest data points and all that stuff because we have so many brokers processing applications and we have like all this hidden data that a lot of people don't have. But yeah, that's a big one is like Chase RM will no longer be available for most people out there unless you make a lot of money. But you can still use RMs for banks like Truist, PNC, Bank of
Mhm.
America, US Bank, things like that. So if you're doing it right like us, where we have multiple loan products, it's still easy to get 100K to 200K plus. But a lot of companies are just running the chase play, is what we call it, and they can no longer do that anymore.
Yeah, when they don't have enough relationships or resources, right? They're not going to be able to provide their product. But yeah, so dude, John, thanks for sharing that, man. Definitely, John, I see here you have fundingvault.io. Where can people connect with you? Where can people learn more about what you're doing, John?
Yeah, so either go to my website, that goes directly to one of my advisors. So feel free to reach out to my Instagram as well, which is John X Duda. DM me directly. We can jump on a call. Always happy to chat. Whether it's real estate, fix and flip, Airbnb, Gator Group, of course. I connect with a lot of Gators on a weekly basis. But yeah, that's my main website. My Instagram is John X Duda to connect.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, definitely connect with John Duda. He's going to get you set up with capital funding there using business credit. If you have fix and flip projects or you want to get into some PML lending, that's a great way as well to put some 0% dollars to work and earn potentially 12, 18% returns, right? So,
Mhm.
hey, that's a good play there as well if you don't want to be actively fix and flipping yourself. But John, anything else you'd want to share? Super grateful for taking time, out of your day here and finally being able to connect with you. Anything else you want to share? Drop some wisdom to the audience.
Yeah, I just highly recommend anyone just optimize your personal credit profile. Start building business credit. The more money you have, the better, right? There's always opportunities out there. If you're not leveraging the bank's money, getting 100K, 200K every 12 months, you're just leaving money on the table, right? Go take that money, go invest into a mentor, a course, make stuff happen, actually do the work, and then work with people that know what they're doing, right? So with our program, it's a done with you program where we hold your hand through the entire process, where we help you get the funding, right? So just take action, get the funding, and you guys can be in the same position. I used to have bad credit, back 4 years ago, 520 credit score. I posted a picture in the Gator group at an 850. I'm 31. But essentially, you guys can flip the script, right? Go from a 520 to 850, have $1 million in credit. Anything is doable, and you guys can become the bank too. But that's about it. I appreciate you having me on here, brother.
No, thank you, man. Yeah, hey, great tips there to close it off, man. Definitely just take action, right? Just when you go to these mentorships, right? Please take action, right? Just don't let that knowledge go to waste. Connect with people like John, myself. If you're in the Gator community, definitely hop on. Send us a message through Instagram. Love to connect with y'all. But John, thanks again, brother, and look forward to collaborating with you, man. And peace out.
Yeah, see you later. Thanks for having me.
Later, man.